Powered by Riverside FM.
Depending on who you listen to get your Minnesota Vikings coverage, information, updates, any of that stuff, whether it's content creators, whether it's local media, whether it's the national media, usually the national media doesn't care for the success of the Vikings pretty much. They're always erring on the side that the Vikings aren't going to be very good. And for the life of me, with all the variety of opinions out there about our purple, about the Minnesota Vikings, it's just really interesting to me. Not the takes that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be average, or not the takes that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be pretty good, or maybe not even the takes that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be not as good as last year. But what perplexes my mind, UP Nation, is the takes that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. So I thought, rather than get mad about it, I'm not going to get upset about it. You know, your opinion is your opinion. Your opinion is wrong, but your opinion is your opinion. I thought that I would do a series of unconventional playbook, position by position, breakdown or comparison of, have the Minnesota Vikings improved or have they not improved? And the baseline is a 14-4 season from last year. And so today what we're going to cover is the Minnesota Vikings quarterback room. I think that is the room that everybody has really the most interest in when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. You know, essentially, you got rid of a quarterback that led you to a 14-4 season for virtually, on the pro level, an unknown, inexperienced quarterback. Let's take a look at the quarterback room as a whole. Like, we're not just going to compare JJ to Sam. We're going to look at the quarterback room as a whole. That's what I want to do. I want to look at any position group and look at them as a whole, not just the sexy pieces, not just the popular names, but the room as a whole. So you look at the quarterback room in 2024, man, you had Sam Darnold, who was the leader of that room, and I think everybody was kind of speculating why the Minnesota Vikings would sign him. Well, basically because he held a clipboard in San Francisco and he had not so many great years with the Carolina Panthers and the New York Jets. So why would the Minnesota Vikings put the steering wheel of their franchise in a guy like that, a guy that hadn't shown really any propensity to be very good in the NFL, but yet they did so? Sam Darnold, long story short, 14-4 as a starter. 14 wins, man, is nothing to sneeze at. How many quarterbacks in the league right now can say that during their career that they've had 14 wins? He had veteran experience. Sam Darnold protected the ball pretty well. He managed the offense pretty efficiently at times. And then you can't dismiss that he had pretty solid chemistry with our guy, Justin Jefferson. Now, the weaknesses about Sam Darnold, that he had a limited upside. You know, he had a very conservative play style when things got tough. I mean, he had the big arm. He could throw a rocket down the field. But when things got tough, he became pretty conservative. And I don't think a lot of people look at him, except for the Seattle Seahawks and maybe their fans, as a long-term answer. And then you had Nick Mullins in the quarterback room. You had Jaron Hall in the quarterback room. You had Daniel Jones in the quarterback room. And then Brett Rypien as well. Now, you look at the quarterback room this year. Let's start with J.J. McCarthy, highest drafted quarterback in the history of the Minnesota Vikings at the number 10 pick. He's athletic, high basketball IQ, franchise upside. I think everybody would agree with that. He's taking full team reps at OTAs with the first string. I think he's expected to start week 1, UP Nation. I think you can't really compare fairly Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy hasn't done a lot of work yet. What you can't compare, though, is their college. See, I'm just looking for things that you can compare, man. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to weigh this thing slightly to J.J. McCarthy, because if you look at the pros, Sam Darnold has an edge over J.J. McCarthy just because he's had a lot of years in the league and his body of work. J.J. McCarthy doesn't have that. The only thing that you can compare is college careers, and J.J. McCarthy has had a better college career than Sam Darnold. Now, you could argue that Sam Darnold was drafted higher than J.J. McCarthy. Okay, that's an argument to be had. But for the most part, J.J. McCarthy has brought championships. He's expected to start week 1. So, but if you had to give an edge, I don't know which way you would go with that. I think you would have to go with Sam Darnold just because of his body of work in the NFL. So if you want to say that the Minnesota Vikings got rid of a 14-4 quarterback, I would listen to that fairly. I don't think it's going to pan out that way. I think JJ is going to be a better quarterback. But right now, today, I can't rake you over the coals because you give Sam Darnold the edge in that department. Quarterback room is better. You got Sam Howell, who's got starting experience with the Washington Commanders as your second-string quarterback. That makes that quarterback room better. He's going to be competing for the number 2 QB spot. And I know people are looking at Brett Rypien saying, hey, this battle is not over, man, but I don't see Brett Rypien beating Sam Howell out. I don't see that. And then you got the developmental prospect in Max Brosmer there. He's going to be probably on the practice squad, going to make the practice squad, and they're going to try to develop him. But with J.J. McCarthy, Sam Howell, Brett Rypien, Max Brosmer, I think the quarterback room is better than it was last year. So when you look at that 14-4 record, and you are trying to compare what room is better, is it an upgrade, UP Nation? What would you give it? You got Sam Howell as your backup. You got J.J. McCarthy as your starter. You got Brett Rypien as your QB3. When you look at the quarterback room from last year, you had Sam Darnold, you had Jaren Hall, and you had Nick Mullins. I think if you had to put a vote on this, I would think that the quarterback room is better. Where you may have an argument is that right now, with all the evidence that you have, when you look at the resume right now, all the evidence that you have, I don't think you can just pencil in J.J. McCarthy, although let me be frank. I think J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback. We just don't have the evidence yet. And when you go into a court of law, you have to have evidence. You just can't come in with circumstantial stats that you can't compare. And this is what this series is going to be about, comparing and contrasting each position unit. So if you had to vote today, UP Nation, would you give our quarterback room a thumbs up in terms of, has it been upgraded? Would you give it an equal thumb where it's about the same as it was last year? Or has the quarterback room gotten worse? UP Nation. Think about this thing as a whole. My vote is, I think the quarterback room has gotten better. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take this thing position group by position group so we can maybe get a better idea of why people are taking the take that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a worse team than they were last year. Not really even the worst team that they were last year, but one of the worst teams in the league. Like, those are the takes that I don't understand. So I want to walk you through this, UP Nation, Skull Nation, Purple Gang. I want to walk you through this so maybe at the end of this thing, we can better understand those takes, man, because I just don't get it. So today was the quarterback room. And my vote is we've upgraded the quarterback room. But what's your take, man? I'm not the only person invested in this, UP Nation. What's your take? Put it in the comments. Think the quarterback room's got better, the same, or worse? Please hit that like and subscribe button. It just takes a minute. to continue to help me pump out this content that I love pumping out to you. And as always, Purple Gang, UP Nation, we will see you when we see you. Put it in the comments. Upgrade, the same, downgrade. Go!